Hello, I'm Chuck Wolf, Chief Executive for Charles J. Wolf Associates, LLC. As a motivational speaker and a leadership consultant and executive coach and trainer, I often work with very successful people in their companies. Since many can't afford a professional, I volunteer to host a radio talk show called The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel, on a nonprofit community radio station in Bridgeport, Connecticut, WPKN. My reason for doing the show is to share with as many people as possible this wonderful process for helping people manage their own emotions and their relationships with others. My goal is for everyone listening to learn to use the Emotion Roadmap to make life better. As you listen to me, help others, I hope you are also learning. As a Simsbury resident, I'm delighted to be able to make the show available through Simsbury TV. To learn more, go to my website, www.emotionroadmap.com. Thank you for listening and watching.
And this is Chuck Wolf. You're listening to WPKN 89.5 FM, and this is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. Nice to be back with everybody. It's the first Wednesday of the month. I'm on the first and second Wednesdays of each month, and it's a pleasure to talk with you today and to be back in touch with you. And hopefully, all of you who are regular listeners, I want to thank you for tuning in. And if you've got questions for me and you want to start the show off right away with something that you're concerned about, something that's challenging you, something that's making you feel a bit uncomfortable, and something that you really want to address with me, let me give you the number in just a second. But first, the Emotion Roadmap, take the wheel and control how you feel. Let me just explain a bit about the show itself. For those of you that might be first-time listeners to the show is all about calling in and getting some help with this concept of emotional intelligence. Most of us in our lives have just learned through trial and error how we deal with emotions, and some of us have become very successful at it. Some of us have not been so successful, and we really struggle throughout each day, over time. Lots of situations that maybe cause us to get angry or sad or lonely. We just don't know how to deal with them. And even for those of us that are good at this, there are times when we become confounded, where we're uncertain how to proceed because we worry that something that we're about to do is going to have some kind of negative impact in a way where we're dealing with other people, that maybe something escalates. It feels more confrontational than we mean it to be, but we know we have some conversations that are going to be challenging coming up, and we're really uncertain, even when we're good at this stuff, how to deal with it. And the whole concept of the show is that I've created this process, this very unique, innovative way to deal with emotions that basically is based on something I learned some years ago with the pioneers of emotional intelligence, and that is that the emotions we are feeling, whatever it is you're feeling right now, is causing you to have certain thoughts, that our feelings drive our thoughts. And sometimes those same thoughts are driving our behaviors. In fact, it's often the case that feelings drive thoughts, drive behaviors. Now, once in a while, it works the other way around in some ways, where behaviors that we do, somebody gets us to do certain behaviors that we aren't used to, perhaps, and it creates new feelings and new thoughts. But a lot of times, particularly when we're trying to change something or deal with something challenging, it's really useful to think about this idea that whatever it is that I've got in front of me, that I'm trying to get done, and it has some potential conflicts associated with it, and it involves a decision that's going to be disruptive for certain people, that there are times when I feel like it's something that what I need to do, I'm really uncertain about what's the right choice. I'm really uncertain what direction to take, what decision to make. And one of the things that I found when smart people are stuck is that it's often because something emotional is happening internally, inside of us. And sometimes the emotions we're concerned about are not necessarily our own, but other people that we're involved with in whatever it is that's going to happen going forward once we decide that what we're going to do or have the conversation that is concerning us that we know is going to be potentially confrontational. So if you've got something going on that you feel you want to address right away with me, and that could be anything that has to do with things at home, things at work, things in your community, things, clubs you belong to, religious organizations. There's lots of places where conflict takes place, where challenges arise, where we're uncertain about what we do next because we're worried about the emotions that are in play. And this show's all about taking the wheel and controlling how you feel. And what I've found is that if we think about what we're feeling and how it's causing us to think, and in turn how those thoughts are driving certain behaviors, and we realize that the feelings we have aren't helpful, then despite the adage that most of us anyway, grew up with, that you have to play the hand you're dealt, in a sense, deal with the emotions you have. Well, I'm here to tell you that one of the things I've discovered, which is so exciting, is that we are actually able to change how we feel. And if we change how we feel based on what we want to accomplish, and based how we want other people to feel, if we stop and ask ourselves, what's really ideal to feel based on what's in front of me and what I'm concerned about? What would be ideal? If I could make magic happen, what would be ideal to feel for me and for anybody else that's involved with what I'm doing, that's key to what I'm doing? What would the ideal feelings be? And then the concept of a roadmap, an emotion roadmap, is how do I get from the feelings that exist that I'm concerned about, that I don't think are helpful, that may even be obstacles to being successful? What feelings, instead of those feelings, would be ideal to feel? And then how do I get there? How do I move? For example, the example I use often is, how do you move from being anxious to confident? There are a lot of times people feel too anxious for something that they need to get done. For instance, a presentation you're going to make, a conversation you want to have, a proposal you want to share. So there's many times that you'll feel more anxious than you want to feel, and you want to feel confident. And so how do you get there? How do you make that happen? That's what the show's about. This process I created called an emotion roadmap is all about that. And so I would really like for you to call in if you've got something going on that you feel is worth sharing and getting some help with, because you're really stuck. Like so many people, smart people, get stuck when something emotional is happening in their lives. And let me walk you through how the emotion roadmap works to see if it can be helpful to you. And I'd say 95 to 99% of the time, my conversations with folks are helpful. And mostly it's helpful to you as an individual, but also what's really important is I'm hoping that everybody who listens to this show, and this is my 11th year, so I know I've got listeners from a long time ago that like to listen regularly. And if you don't know about the show, again, I'm Chuck Wolf. The show's called The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And I'm presently on air the first and second Wednesdays of each month from 12 to 1 p.m. The first and second Wednesdays of each month. So I'm on this week, next week, and then the following month. So if you are knowledgeable about the show, then you know that it's not only that I'm helping the person who's calling in, it's that I'm trying to explain while I'm helping somebody, while I'm helping you, to everybody who's listening, how the emotion roadmap works, so that hopefully over time, all of the people who want to use the emotion roadmap in their lives, and folks, this is going to be life-changing. I know it's been life-changing. It's been life-changing for me when I discovered it for myself, for family members of mine, for friends of mine, and for all those people I've had a chance to influence over the years through the coaching that I do, the consulting that I do, through the motivational speaking that I do. All of that is possible because of this concept. And teaching people how to use the concept doesn't mean I tell them how they should handle a certain situation. I give them a process to self-discover what makes the most sense by focusing on the emotions that are in play in situations where they're stuck. So if you want to call me and you've been waiting for me to come on, let me give you the number. I'll say it a couple of times slowly so that you can get it. If you want to call in, that's great. It's always fun and more entertaining, I think, if somebody calls in and I can actually walk you through how to use the emotion roadmap to help you. The number to call is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. So you understand that once you call in, I'll say, "This is Chuck Wolf. You're on the air. Who am I talking to?" And then you tell me if you want to use your real name, that's fine. If you want to use a pseudonym, that's fine. Doesn't matter. But once you tell me a little bit about your situation, I'll basically try to summarize your situation, make sure I understand what you're calling in about. Then I'll ask you about how you're feeling, and I'll ask you about how you want to feel. And we have our first caller. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please? I'm sorry, what was it, your name? Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hi, this is Logan. How are you?
Good, Logan. Thanks for calling in. How can I help you today?
Well, sir, I've been listening to your show for years, and your advice is always good. So I'm facing a situation. I'm retiring soon from a job that I've been at for close to 35 years. And, I have the last couple months before I leave, and I have a supervisor who continually hounds me and has been lacking in communication skills for the last 18 years I have worked for him. Because I'm getting close to retirement, I'm finding myself getting into situations where I'm not really, how can I put it? I don't say the appropriate thing and tell them what I think of them. So I'm trying to avoid going out and ruining a great career.
Right.
In the last 2 months I'm here. So
sure. You have a couple of choices, right, Logan? The choices that you're telling me about is you've had a great career, you're about to retire, it's 35 years, you get a supervisor that's been annoying, I guess, for quite a long time, and
our term for him is the mosquito.
And the mosquito, okay.
As a mosquito, I can't swat, unfortunately.
So the buzzing continues. Every once in a while, you get stung, and it's irritating. And so part of you is feeling like you want to go out in a blaze of glory, saying whatever you think you've wanted to say all these years. And that's a choice. And that, you know what, Logan, you could do that, and then you'd live with the consequences. And that's what I guess you're asking. What do you want to be remembered as, right? I mean, part of it is it feels so good when you're doing it. I get it. But at the same time, is that how you want to think about how you went out, right?
Yeah, the whole idea is that I want to go out in a peaceful manner. I want everybody to appreciate my work that I've done here for years, and I just getting into what I call that grumpy old wolf attitude, where I want to snarl and snap at people when they irritate me, and I've kind of done this all my life, and at this point, being 65, I think it's time to change some of that behavior.
Well, since I'm Chuck Wolf, I resemble that remark, that a grumpy old wolf. Anyway, the idea of snapping at somebody isn't necessarily helpful, and I get that. And you want to go out and peaceful and in a good way. And so I'm wondering, obviously you know what the choices are, and you're calling up, and you want me to tell you how to manage that better, do you think? Or do you want me to possibly offer you some other ideas about what are the other choices you might have?
Well, obviously, even earlier retirement than what I planned could avoid the situation, but I don't want to really go out that way. Maybe just a strategy about how to get myself in a place where I don't react as quickly, and I think about it before I open my mouth.
Okay, so the emotion roadmap is all about how are you feeling, and so let's talk about that for a moment. So you've told me that you've got this person who's someone that's been mosquito-like for a long time with you, and yet you've had a wonderful career over a long period of time where you've managed how you feel and you've acted appropriately, even perhaps when they haven't. And so you want to continue to do that, but you're feeling what? What is it you're feeling that's causing you to act out a bit, do you think?
It's a combination of things, because unfortunately my work situation also revolves around my living situation where I'm in residence, and the uncertain future that's facing me once I leave this department or the place that I work. So that combination, I think, helps put me in a place where I don't act appropriately, because I think I'm being challenged in so many different ways besides just the workplace. It's also my living situation, too.
So partly there's a bunch of situational variables that are impacting your stress level, and you're feeling quite a bit of stress as this opportunity to retire comes up, right? And the stress is
exactly
okay.
I should be embracing it and should be saying this is a new adventure, and a part of me feels that way.
Yeah.
But I've always been in control of most of the things around me, and at this point in my life, at 65, I feel things are a little beyond my control, and maybe I've put things off as far as learning how to cope with them. That may be the best honest way to say it.
So there's an anxiety associated with how you're feeling due to stressors, and there's a feeling of maybe acting out a bit because you're not as in control as you have been in the past. That sound right?
Oh, exactly right. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm sure other people go through this all the time. It's just as a take charge kind of, push ahead kind of guy, this is new for me.
How soon before you actually retire?
Well, I was looking at June 1st, but I may go April 1st because I turned 65 on March 31st. So.
What's the implications of going earlier versus going a little later, a few months later?
A few job commitments that that are part of my job that I really like, and then maybe a few less dollars, but overall, not too much.
So let me just, without telling you what to do, because there's always an urge, right, to jump in and solve a problem right away. And one of the things that hopefully everybody who's listening to us, Logan, will get the idea that, yeah, okay, here's what you should do, Logan, because that's what's going through people's minds now who want to help you. But instead of me just telling you what to do, I'd like you to think about what do you think's going to happen when you do retire, and what are you considering at least? Have you got some thoughts about what might be in front of you? If you haven't got any at all, then I'll suggest some things. But my guess is you've been thinking about it, so maybe there are a few things that you're kind of toying with or considering.
Well, the type of thing is since I'm still a very active 65-year-old, small part-time job to occupy my time, indulging myself in the recreational activities that I enjoy, and then work towards a future with my current life partner. Basically, those are the things that I'm looking forward to, along with throwing myself into some volunteer work as far as helping land trusts and environmental organizations, because I think it's necessary at this time of the time of the situation for the world, and it's you got to make contributions to make things better, and I'd like to do that.
So thank you, and I'm not surprised that you've thought about a number of these things. And so for everybody that's listening, not just for you, Logan, but think about the idea that I would have suggested some of the things you've already thought about, right? Some of the things that I might have suggested are things that you've already just said. Now, the question I have for you going forward is, why does that not feel like enough to you?
Good question. I think sometimes the fear of what's coming sometimes is a little bit stifling, and I guess that's the way to say it. I'm not quite sure. Uncertainty has never been it's kind of been frightening for me. So I guess that's the best way of saying it.
So you want to feel more certain instead of uncertain. That's the key in terms of the roadmap that we're talking about. Is the uncertainty is really elevating that stress level, and that's impacting some of the things that maybe you're saying that you wish you hadn't said, even though sometimes it might feel good for the moment.
The release is great, but the repercussions are usually dire.
Right. So it's not so much that you want to say something to this supervisor, because when you first started talking, by the way, I thought, well, maybe you want to have a conversation with them that isn't reacting to some of the things that they do that annoy you on the spot and just saying something inappropriate, but instead saying, look, we've had a relationship for a long time, and then having a conversation that just says, one of the things that and then here's how I would position it. Some of the things I've really come to admire about you and working with you, and if I could just leave you with a little bit of advice, would you be open to that? And then maybe sharing something that you think is probably rubbing other people the wrong way too, that this person could do differently. So I didn't know if you were going to ask about that.
Well, one of the things is mostly I'm disappointed by his communication skills. He just pops up whenever and never gives me any notice. And I am actually running a center that's kind of busy, and it gets in the way of the programming that we're offering. So I react to that because these are my loves and this is what I've thrown myself into. So my emotional attachment to my job is sometimes my girlfriend would say I'm married to the job other than her.
No, I understand. A lot of people actually, that happens to lots of folks. So Logan, one of the things is you may want to think about, because you care about the job, maybe having that conversation real close to the end of when you're leaving. Not that it changes with you, but just something that's helpful to him. And again, I would couch it in anything that you might have liked over the years. I mean, you've been there a long time, so there's probably some things that are working that you can just let them know are working. Now, I don't think you should make anything up, but assuming that there are a few things that you like about working with them, I'd say those things and say thank you for that. And I'd ask him, would you be open to one piece of advice I think that would help the center run better, and then maybe offer that up. And that helps. I think that helps you deal with that piece of it. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, that's an excellent strategy, and it takes the negativity and turns it around and makes it a lot more positive.
Right, and so, but it's not just an angry outburst at a time when it's because what you could end up saying if the stress gets too much is that what, all these years you've never told me in a timely basis when we're doing things different, and it makes it impossible to. I mean, that's how it could feel, right? You'd want to say something that feels like that, but then you think about all the things that were good about the relationship, and that's all gone once you do something like that.
True. And I, like I said, I do want to remember the good things. I just had to say goodbye to a coworker recently who retired, and he was more or less one of my support systems. Where when things got aggravating, I could discuss things with him about the situation. It would help certainly to diffuse it somewhat.
Well, Logan, you said you've been listening to me a long time, so the other piece of this puzzle is this, and that is that when you're feeling uncertain and you want to feel certain, and you talk about some of the things that you're thinking about doing, you mentioned, spend more time on your relationship with your partner, do more with the recreational activities that you really enjoy, get more involved with things like the land trust and other things that you enjoy as a volunteer, and take a part-time job. Those are all things that you said that are all very reasonable choices for somebody that's about to transition into retirement, right?
Oh, I'm sure they're achievable, but like I said, sometimes it's just I don't like driving into the fog, as I put it.
So no, right. So I'm agreeing with you. So what I was going to ask you was, how can you make sure some of those things are in place before you leave? In other words, rather than just all of a sudden, hey, today's the day, it's April 1st, and I'm done. It's all over. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been great. And now I'm stepping out. Now I'm figuring out, do I call the land trust? Do I get a part-time job? Where do I apply? Do I start doing more in the recreational arena? Do I figure out what I want to do more? And all of it's like a big jumble, and it feels really uncomfortable. And that's the part that's worrying you, right?
Yeah, one of the nice things that has taken place, though, I made a commitment to make sure I touch bases with all the people over the years that I've associated with before I leave, to say goodbye and thank them for the things that they're doing. I have found that very gratifying because it sort of gets me out of that slump, and I hear good, nice things back from them, too. So a little self-serving, perhaps, but it's nice to be gratified hearing things about the things that I did right while I was here.
So let me ask you the key question here, which I think will be helpful for you to think about, and that is that if you know there is four areas of your life that you want to do more in, and know that you're going to either retire April 1st, which is coming right up, that's real fast, or June 1st, what about trying to establish at least some of those things before you leave? So you're not walking into this total fog. I wouldn't try to do everything right away because it's an overload, and you want to leave yourself some space just to sit down and look at the news in the morning if you want, or read a book, or go for a walk and not feel like you have to go someplace right away. But you want some things in place so that there's less fog, if you will. Does that make some sense to you?
Oh, sure, sure. And, in many ways, other than the silly little fear that I have about things, I am kind of marching towards all those directions. It's just sometimes the uncertainty is, I don't know. I want to say a brain killer. I mean, it stifles you sometimes from going in and moving forward towards those things. But talking to you and having to have the opportunity to voice some of these things, and you telling me that, or offering suggestions, has been most helpful. It really has.
So one of the things that before you leave, Logan, just to suggest to you that you decide which of those things that you actually want to start doing now before you leave. Whether it's to volunteer for the land trust or, join some kind of recreational aspect of what you enjoy in a league basis that you haven't been able to make the commitment to in the past. I mean, I don't know which one it is, and that's something you want to think about hard, but something that gives you a feeling of, when I finish this, one of the things I'm really looking forward to is what I've just started already. And whether it's volunteering for the land trust or something else that you can make a commitment to that isn't overwhelming, and you still have free space to figure stuff out, because it's kind of an exciting adventure once it actually happens. But I know you don't know that right now. and if you don't have something, it can be depressing. I mean, that's the other side of it. If you don't have something. So I get the uncertainty, but I think if you make some commitments in the next month, and maybe it's better to wait till June 1st so you can establish a couple of things. And it gives you some time to get your feet and your mind and your body and your heart involved in a couple of things that you feel like that's really where you want to go next in terms of things that you do. So when you're leaving, it's not just that you're leaving, you're also more excited because you got something you're going to devote some time to now that you've wanted to for a long time, and you've already started it, and you know that it's going to feel good, and that'll help.
Well, I'm sitting here with a smile on my face because I do see a little bit clearer now, and hopefully I'll be able to try to embrace some of those things. So, Chuck, thank you. And thank you for all the advice that you offer everybody else out there. It's a unique show.
Thanks you very much, Logan. I really appreciate you listening, and thanks for calling in. You have a great day.
You too, sir. Take care.
Bye-bye now. Okay, that was Logan. So I think hopefully if you've had a chance to listen, you got an idea what the show's about. And I'd encourage you, if you've got something on your mind, that this is still early in the show. I've got about 25 minutes left. I stop at 5 to 1 with public announcements. And I just want to remind everybody you're listening to WPKN 89.5 FM. In Bridgeport, independent community radio, broadcasting from the campus of the University of Bridgeport. And we serve Fairfield, New Haven, and Litchfield counties in Connecticut, Suffolk County in New York's Long Island. We stream around the world at WPKN.org, TuneIn Radio, Radio Free America, and WPKN's free app, WPKN Live. If you like my show and you're new to it and you haven't, or even if you're a regular listener and you just want to listen more, a couple of places you can go to listen to previous shows. One is the Public Radio Exchange, where I post a lot of shows that I really think came out really well, and that's exchangeprx.org. But you can just type in Public Radio Exchange, probably come up, and then just type in Emotion Roadmap. You can see me on YouTube if you like the idea of seeing me on camera. The town I live in Simsbury, Connecticut, has asked me several years ago if I'd be willing to film the show, and they can play it live as one of the shows they offer to Simsbury residents. And so you can go to Simsbury Community TV on YouTube and then type in Emotion Roadmap, and you'll see a whole bunch of my shows for the last couple of years there. And also on SoundCloud, if you just want to listen, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher. So lots of ways to listen in case you miss shows or you just want to hear more of me. So the show, again, is about helping people deal with emotionally challenging situations. As you heard Logan talk about one where he's about to retire. And hey, the unknown is scary, and not just for someone who's retiring after a lot of years. Any change, new job, a new home, a new partner, a new baby, lots of things, while they're exciting and wonderful in certain ways, are also scary and uncertain in other ways. And if you're feeling on the scary side and you want some help in figuring out what to do about it, you can give me a call. And let me repeat the numbers for you. 203-336-9756. 203 336-9756. So why might you call? Well, you might call because you're somebody who is having some issues at work with a coworker, or with somebody you work for. Lots of reasons, and I've got another caller. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
My name is Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi. I don't know if this is the right type of situation that you would deal with, but I was listening to the other gentleman,
Sure.
and I think I can relate to some of the things he's saying, but my situation's a little different. So I'll just let you know, and if it's not, we don't have to go on with the conversation.
Oh, no, Sheila, there are no situations that I'm least willing to entertain. So go ahead with your story.
So I also recently retired, and I work part-time now at a university.
Okay.
And I was happy because I was working in the school system for many, many years as a counselor, and it was time after many years. So I'm enjoying my part-time job, and I decided to take a graduate course, and I've been out of higher education, of course, for many years. I'm 60 years old, and I'm thinking of getting another license so that because I want to continue to work part-time to supplement my income, and also because I enjoy working in a helping profession. So I signed up for this course. I had to wait to get approved for a few steps, and I joined it a week late. Therefore, I was a little behind. However, I threw myself into it. I was very conscientious. However, it's all online, not the course, but the lecture is fine. It's on Blackboard, so you have to listen to the discussion, do the readings, and post them every week. So I wasn't able to get the books until this weekend. So I did most of what I could online and the readings online. And when I couldn't figure out what the professor's response was until last night. So he posted it on Blackboard, and I didn't do well. Of course, I'm older. I haven't been in school a long time, but I'm fairly good with, my assignments. And this now is important to me. I've invested my time and money. Make a long story short, I asked him last night, and he said, well, you missed a few things, and I told you to take extra time. I said, well, you gave me some extra days, and I thought, I'm a little intimidated by him. I said, I thought I could, I thought it was best to get most of the assignment in, and he said, well, no, you missed 2 or 3, and this and that. And I said, it's a lot to do with mindfulness and mental health, working with clients. But anyways, at the end of the night, I said, okay, thank you. I will keep that in mind. Now I'm a little intimidated because I've never done so much work online, and there's a lot of reading, and I still work. So I'm going to try. I didn't know whether I should email him and say, what are your suggestions? Do you want me to send you a draft by attachment, and you can see how my answers are going, like just a few sentences? And am I on the right track? Or should I just make an appointment with him and find out, where I'm not? I sort of know where I'm not doing well, but because school now, I get the higher education is so different. I wonder if I'm missing some steps or how to approach assignment. You know what I'm saying?
I do, actually. Yeah, no,
Okay.
It makes sense to me on multiple levels.
Okay.
First of all, I was a school counselor before I did a lot of other things in my life, so I have some familiarity with that role. Secondly, I taught in higher education, and I am familiar with Blackboard, and I know that that's a challenge if you aren't familiar, or if you haven't been using that, because that's a whole new technology you have to learn as well as the coursework. So that's challenging in and of itself. And I also understand the question about, you're at a certain point in time where it's feeling uncomfortable for probably a few reasons. Let me see if I get this right, Sheila. So one is that it's been a long time, and you haven't done this before. You got a late start and you didn't get your materials on time. And so you're kind of rushing and also feeling like this is not brand new, but it's new in the sense that you are now trying to use skills that you've had over the years, academic skills that those are probably intact, but in new ways with new technologies and online where you don't have a relationship where you just can go up and just ask somebody. And so all that's brand new. Is that right?
Yes, and also the course, because it's using mindfulness. I'm sure you're very much aware of that, and learning, about the Eastern and Western philosophies. And so half the course is, there's 5 books, 2 workbooks and 3 academic books, and there's a lot of reading. But what I think I've missed, I treated the questions like I did previously, like academically, like, quoting things and analyzing and summarizing. And he didn't like that. He said you were supposed to just do the salient points. And then there's quite a few experiential things, I think, how I respond to situations. And it's a combination now of an academics in mindfulness and the psychology and neurobiology behind that. Then the next step is the experiential. And I'm not used to, so I'm like, okay, so you want to know, like, I don't know, like, I'm not sure how to do some, like, so I feel like I'm not 100% sure how to approach the assignments. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Sure. Okay. So you're feeling a lot of anxiety around this, it sounds like.
Oh, I am.
Right. And so a couple things. I'm assuming that you want to feel more confident and more competent.
Yes. And I want to feel that I'm approaching, but, he's very important in the apartment, and you can tell, and most of the people, of course, are younger than me.
Right.
And I'm feeling like, well, maybe this was not a good idea, like maybe my age and where I am. But, I work with some people, and they've been encouraging me, and they think I would be a very good, it's become an LPC, licensed professional counselor. And I have most of the courses done. I just have to do some more clinical work. Anyways, the thing is, I'm just like feeling like, I don't know whether I should, I don't want to bother him. So should I send him an email and just say, do you want to look over sort of the track I am and make a comment before I submit it online? Because once I submit it online, I can't do anything about it. It's there.
So,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. So in other words, you have some propositions you're considering.
Right. I'm either considering, emailing him today or tomorrow, depending if I have to go to work soon, and saying, what would you prefer? Would you prefer me to send you like just a few sentences or how I should approach the question answers and get your opinion? Or do you want me to come in for an appointment and, I can follow what your advice is? Because there's he says there's 9 hours of work each week that is required to be successful. That is a lot of work, though. I think, when you think of all the reading, now does he mean that just the reading and the writing, or So it's just a very different course because half of it's academic and the other half is your experience and sharing your experience. But I'm not quite sure how to do that. Because
Okay.
I've never done that in an academic course, except in things like sensitivity training, which was more hands-on in a group setting.
Right. How do you do experiential stuff?
About?
Yes, I do. And how do you do experiential stuff when it's online? Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so a couple things. One is, I think there's 2 people that are key in this. One is you and one is him.
Right.
So let's just talk about you for a moment. So
Okay.
if we worry about you feeling more confident and competent, is it possible, and it may not be for you, but is it possible that you can look at this course in a way where I know it's important to get your license and that you're very committed, so this probably isn't going to work, but at one level you may want to just say, look, I may decide if it's possible to step back and audit this course this time, if that's a possibility, right, and just allow myself to learn whatever I can, see what I think at the end of it, and then decide to take it at a later date. once I've been through this once, because there's a lot of newness here, and I want to get comfortable with the things that, including technology and things that I just aren't familiar with, and just I want to have all that behind me and learn some things, so the next time I can take this, I can really be highly successful. So that's one thing. Is that a possibility that you could possibly?
I don't think so, because of the way the program's set up. And I think it's too late to withdraw, and
Okay.
I'd lose $2,000. It's a lot of money.
Okay.
For me, it is anyway.
Sure. Okay. So then the only way you're going to feel good about this, then it sounds like, is if you find some accommodation with this professor that allows you to succeed here.
Right. And I don't want to annoy him, because some academics, he's a PhD. He's very important in the department. He's published. He has a lot of accolades. And I don't want to say, like, not that I'm not important, but I don't want to be, you know what I mean? I don't want to bother him. But so I thought the email and ask him, either or, do you want me to send an attachment or do both? And what do you prefer? Or would you like me to meet with you and send in my answers?
So
not all the answers, but just my plan.
Let me just ask you, how do you think that would make him feel for you to ask him to make a decision for you?
I'm not sure. Like, I don't know him, because he's very flamboyant. He seems very down to earth. But then when you look at the syllabus and you look at what he's expecting every week, like I think because the people are younger and they've been in the program, like they probably know how to approach it. So I would ask one of the colleagues, but I don't know. I feel a little bit like everybody, you go at night, people are there, people drive far, like people are extremely busy. They don't have time to, or I could go to a librarian at the school and the reference librarian, and maybe they'd have some, guidelines of how to exactly, it's a lot of work every week that you have to do by a certain deadline and upload it. I'm hoping that now that I have more time to read and more time to plan, that, I could probably end up, hopefully I'd like a B, but if not, maybe a C+, you know what I mean?
I do. So
I'm not sure, like, I don't know exactly, and like we're going to do group work, and we have 2 workbooks. Like, I guess it's going to be like how we participate. Like, so that's somewhat subjective too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So here's a thought I'm having. You're asking, should I email him? Should I go visit with him? And you're leaning towards email because you think it's less intrusive, I guess.
Well, I'm going to ask, do you recommend I come for an appointment, or would you like me just to submit my plan for the next assignment so that I can improve my performance on the, that type of thing? Or not, or just ask him for an appointment and then go in with my questions.
So let me ask you a question. Would you think he would feel you are a confident and competent person if you write him an email that says, what should I do? Or would you feel that he would feel more like you were a confident, competent person if you just wrote in and said, I'd like to meet with you. I have a number of questions I'd like to go over. And then you just went in and you said, I want to be successful. I want to have this relationship with you so I can contact you. This is new to me on many levels, but I want this license. I know I'm a good counselor, and I want to know how best to work with you. Which says to you it's going to be more confident and competent to him?
I think your way is much better. He does have office hours, and I just have to maybe, figure out when that is and make arrangements to go during that time. So I'm just going to, I agree with you. I'm going to ask him for an appointment during his office hours, so it won't be inconvenient. That's why he has office hours. And I'll write my questions down. In the meantime, it might not be till after that. I have to have this next assignment in by Monday, but that's all right. Even if I do another assignment that's not quite right, if I reach out to him today, I probably will have the appointment after, but at least it shows I'm being proactive.
So let me just point out to you, Sheila, I didn't say which one you should. I said, which one do you think he'd feel like you were more confident and confident?
I think with this gentleman, actually, you're right. Because if I say either or, it shows that I'm sort of don't have confidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right. And I feel like that's why he has office hours. It might have happened to other people. You know?
I mean, I don't know about you, but I've over the years, I've had on occasion a course or two that I didn't do so well in, and I took it over. I took it over
Right.
because I felt like, you know what, I didn't do well on this, and there's some reasons I get that I didn't do well on it, but I've learned some things about it now, and I believe I can do much better in it the next time I do it, and I do. And that didn't happen a lot, but go ahead.
Yeah, he told me last night that it's not a sinking ship. Like, I still have time to recoup. But he was in a hurry, so I didn't want to take him, too much of his time.
Yep. So now the next question is, if you're willing to, say I want to meet with you, what's the meeting look like? And if you think about it this way, Sheila, you've been a counselor for many years. What would you advise somebody if it was a student with a teacher in a public school setting where you might have worked before? What would you say to them? In other words, if you're going to ask for this meeting, you want to be prepared when you go in there. What do you want to ask them?
I definitely will. No, I'll have the questions. And I'm going to work this. I'm going to have more time in the next few days to really. And I feel like he feels that I missed some questions, and I didn't do enough on certain areas, but did too much in terms of, like, I approached it too much academically and not enough like some of the exercises.
Yeah, so you might ask them too, Sheila, because I don't know. My wife taught in the university for a lot of years, and I know that there are sometimes facilities set up on university settings that if you're struggling with a particular course, that maybe there's somebody he could recommend that you don't want to take a lot of his time, but is there somebody else that I could work with to make sure that I'm...
Yeah, there is a writing center. I'm a good writer, but maybe because of the new, like you said, I'm getting fine with Blackboard, but it's actually how he wants the questions answered.
Right.
I'm going to have to go, though. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
I'm waiting. I had to pick up someone, and they're ready.
Okay. All right. I hope this was helpful to you.
It was extremely helpful. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks for the call, Sheila. You take care. Bye-bye now.
So.
Well, I want to thank Logan and Sheila. I hope that you're all having the sense of how you think about these things. And it was interesting how she felt that it was my suggestion. Sure, I thought she'd be better off if she did visit with the professor one-on-one, but I didn't know for sure. And so I suggested, how do you think he would feel about your email that says, I'm not really quite sure which way to go, or going and meeting with him and so forth. So I've got another call. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Can I? Who's calling, please?
Hey, Chuck. Dwayne. Good show today.
Oh, thank you very much, Dwayne. Appreciate it.
You kind of, in a way, took the wind out of my sails. I just wanted to say to that woman that I was kind of in the same situation.
Uh-huh.
I'm 65, and I retired 10 years ago, and I thought I would take some, I did. I took some courses at the local university.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take a course for JLA, Justice and Law.
Uh-huh.
And I knew that first night I got in way over my head. And she's talking about Blackboard and all this reading. So what I did, I just went to the student counselor, and we talked. And the woman said to me, well, why don't you just audit it? And it was the best thing I ever did. I never missed a class, and the subject was just so much more enjoyable, knowing at this elderly age that I didn't have to do all these. It was grueling. It was a grueling course. And the other thing I wanted to say was, in Connecticut, if you're 62 or older, you only pay $62. They have this thing with senior citizens. You're paying $62 for a course.
At any university or just the public ones?
I'm not sure about any, but I know, I don't want to list any names, but the one that I went to, it was $62.
Okay, well, that's a very good deal.
If you're auditing, it doesn't matter if you're auditing the course or actually taking the course for credits. I was non-matriculant, and I just had a blast.
Yeah, I know. I actually think you're right. Dwayne, in the sense that when people are just auditing, sometimes you don't have to. You're not feeling the pressure of performing, but you're learning and you're growing and you're really enjoying without that pressure, and you keep up because you're interested.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah, but with her wanting a license and him being a key member of a department, that wasn't going to work for her. Although I thought maybe she could take it a second time if she ordered it. Sometimes you can if it's early enough in the semester.
A lot of these courses are just a lot of reading intense, and it's not like I haven't been to school in 50 years.
Right.
And it's just all different. It really is. Like some of the classes, they're letting you just turn in paperwork. Other things, you could use Google Docs, and then they had I just had so much fun auditing.
Well, I appreciate the phone call, Dwayne. I'm glad you're enjoying the show, and thanks for listening.
Okay. Bye, Chuck.
Bye now. Take care. Okay, folks, I'm going to be hitting the time that I take off in a couple of minutes. If you want to call and say anything about the show, I got a couple minutes left. The number's 203-336-9756, 203-336-9756. And I can tell you a little bit about next week. Next week's show is going to be a surprise because I'm not going to be here, but I'm going to have a show that I believe the show I want to play next week is one that's been recorded in the past, and it deals with conflict. But I'm going to think about that because I have to make a call and see about what I can do. Thank you for calling. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Oh, hi. My name is Laura.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for calling.
Hi. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I know you only have a few minutes left. Fabulous show. I love how everybody's willing to talk about all this and
Thank you.
Deal with it on the air. I'm 69 and I'm taking these, it's called OLLI, and they're adult education courses at UConn in Connecticut. And I took a course in improv, and the first class was so boring because the guy just talked about himself so much. It was an hour and a half of stuff we could have read,
Yeah.
And then he said to us, I'll give you homework, write one page of something that happened to you or whatever you want to write about, and then you'll read it in front of the class next time. So I forgot to write something, and everybody had something written out. So when it came to me, I said to him, I forgot, but I can stand up and tell you a story. Now, while I was listening to everybody else and I was trying to pay attention to their story, I had this anxiety going through me to stand up in front of the class, which I've done maybe once before when I was in my 20s. And it was really scary. But in an instant, I said, what am I afraid of? I'm 69. I'm going to tell them a story that happened to me when I was 9 years old, which is kind of funny. And I got up there and I did it. And I had all this, not anxiety, but all this energy, this intense energy telling the story. And I started to feel comfortable, like I was a stand-up comedian.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just, I think it's just really, you have to think things through sometimes. And I've been doing that for the past few years, like thinking about anxiety and why is there anxiety and doing all this internal mental mind control stuff. And I guess it paid off.
Well, it's interesting, sometimes it's fear itself is a crippler. And if we can push past fear and just do the things we want to do, it gives us enormous confidence. And if we're not afraid of failure, that's the big thing. If we're terrified of failure, then fear can be crippling. If we know we can stand up and we can do something, and hopefully it's going to go well, and sometimes it will. Sometimes it'll be great, and other times maybe not so much. But that's okay too.
Right.
That's okay too.
Absolutely. That's exactly the attitude. Fear is crippling, and it's just okay.
I did a show one time called "Just Enough is Perfect."
Right.
Just good enough. All right, I've got to go. Thank you so much for calling, though. I appreciate it. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye. Well, that's my show, folks. You've been listening to Chuck Wolf, the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. Have a good week, everybody. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.